G'day and welcome to Sunland Caravan's Brisbane to Birdsville Bash.
I'm going to Birdsville.
I'm going to Birdsville. And I'm going to Birdsville.
We're all going to Birdsville.
But I'm not.
Not too many van manufacturers accompany their customers on their travels, but Roy Wiss from Sunland Caravans decided to invite a whole bunch of his customers along on a classic caravan convoy from Brisbane out to the legendary Birdsville races. All the vehicles were checked over before the trip. Here, some of the basic operations of the equipment on the Sunland models are explained. Once ready for the road, our route took us up the Dagular Highway through Kilcoy and Blackbutt to Yarraman, and then from Kooyar across to Dalby, where we joined the Warrego Highway westbound. With Roy leading the way, we passed through Miles and Roma, leaving the Western Downs behind and crossing into the official start of the Queensland outback at the tiny town of Amby. From there we continued to our first overnight stop at the Major Mitchell Caravan Park at Mitchell. Roy gathered the crowd together and organised an early start from Mitchell because our next leg was a long one, taking us 600 kilometres out through Morven, Charleville and Quilpie to our next overnight stop at Windora. As we cruised along, Roy kept the convoy informed via the radio, making sure there were no dramas with any of the travellers. We took regular breaks along the way. After all, everyone needs a cuppa on the road. The countryside changes as you approach Charleville. This is red dirt country, and the flanking brigalow and mulga trees crowded around the road. West of Charleville, the road was in good condition all the way out to the pleasant town of Quilpie, which was a good place for a lunch break. West of Quilpie, the road changed a little. It became one of those classic single-lane Queensland outback roads, and the convoy had to take a bit of care when passing oncoming traffic. The countryside began changing as we headed west, trees giving way to more open vegetation, with the watercourses of the Channel country becoming more common. The convoy crossed Cooper's Creek and headed into Windora, where the crowds were gathering for the annual Yabby races. All the folk bound for Birdsville stop over in Windora for this event, which raises money for the Royal Flying Doctor Service.
Hut to a righty, hut to a righty, all with 300, hut 300, hut 300, all with shoot style with 300, all with 300, all with 3. Go! Number 6 is only. 8 doesn't know where to go, and number 5 is fast asleep. Number 3 is still right in the middle of the pack, but number 2 looks really good from number 1 and 6. 9 is coming up. 10 is making some early headway, and number solid has
We camped up in a paddock alongside the town, and in the morning Roy gave the vans the once-over before we headed off further west. We now came to the interesting part of the tour. The road from Windora remained single-lane tar for about 100 kilometres before the turn-off to Birdsville and 300 kilometres of dirt road. At the turn-off, Roy gathered the vans ready for the dirt. He organised the convoy order with the little Vicky van up in front and Gareth Evans acting as tail gunner. After a quick cuppa and chat and another quick walk around of the vans, the crew headed onto the Birdsville Development Road and the long, dusty last leg of our trip. The road was in pretty good condition really, but the amount of traffic had it showing some slight corrugations and rutting. The dust was pretty heavy, but a crosswind made travelling a bit easier. Oddly enough, it began to rain lightly just as we hit the dirt, which we hoped would settle the dust a bit. But unfortunately, the rain didn't have too much of an impact. The big question now centred on two vans in the convoy, the Little Vicky and the Emerald. Both were really designed by Roy as blacktop models, yet here they were kicking up dust with the rest of us. Roy's dirt roaders, the Longreach, Winton and Blue Heeler models, leapt onto the dirt like they were coming home. They handled the road very well, of course, because this was what they were specifically designed for and maintained good stability all the way. The country here is pretty much desert, with gibber plains and breakaways, and the hardiest of shrubs mark the few watercourses. It's harsh country, all right. Just the place to test the capability of your rig. After about 100 kilometres, we came to a rest area at Dion's Lookout. It was cuppa time, and Roy made sure that all the rigs were up to scratch. Then it was back onto the dirt for the final dusty 188 kilometre leg into Birdsville. Not surprisingly, there was only one mishap with a van on the trip. One of the vans had to pull over onto the roadside to allow the pet pup to poo, and got bogged down in the soft stuff when they tried to move on. A bit of judicious digging got them back on the track, but the warning was noted. Watch the soft stuff on the edge. Finally, dry and dusty, the Sunland convoy rolled into Birdsville and set up camp in an area blessed with burrs and dirt and dust, about midway between the town and the racetrack. The Birdsville population is normally around 100, but for this race weekend the numbers swell to over 7,000. The flat between the town and the track was a sea of caravans and RVs of all shapes and sizes, and tents and swags. The town was really buzzing, with the pub doing a roaring trade along with Brophy's famous boxing tent, and of course the Birdsville bakery. There were so many temporary stands around the town selling souvenirs, coffee and tucker that the place looked like Sideshow Alley. The first races were held on the Friday, and a few of the Sunlanders made the trek to the track and made a few bob. But we all got back to camp in time for the Sunland Happy Hour. Roy put on drinks and munchies and the crew yarned away for hours. The one thing most common in the conversation was the way everyone's rigs had handled the trip out. And surprisingly, there were no problems with the two blacktop vans either. The Vicky and the Emerald handled the dirt just like they'd been born to it.
So there's a big Sunland fan to go in and turn.
I'm right. You're right. You're slim because you don't eat much.
Oh no, yes I do.
Structurally, inside and out, the vans handled the dirt exactly as they'd been designed to. No fuss, no bother, no damage, no problems. Early the next morning, a convoy of half a dozen Sunlanders made the 35-kilometre trek west to see the sunrise on the wonderful red dunes of the Simpson Desert. It's truly spectacular country, stark, unforgiving and stunningly beautiful. The main race day was Saturday, and a few of the crew headed out to enjoy the atmosphere. It's a remarkable race meeting, with girls and boys dressed up to the nines, even in all the dirt. Frocks, fascinators and thongs were the gear for the ladies, and even in the dust, heat and flies, everyone had a wonderful time. By day's end, the races were over, and so was the Sunland Brisbane to Birdsville Bash. All the vans were given the once-over before departure. Most of the Sunlanders headed off to other parts. Some down the Birdsville track into South Australia, others north to Badoorie and across to Winton. But all agreed it had been a super trip and a great experience. The Sunland vans all lived up to their reputation for toughness and comfort, designed to handle the dirt roads of the great outback. That brings us to the end of Sunland Caravan's tour from Brisbane to Birdsville. We all had a terrific time up there. It's a great place to go, and we might even go next year. But anyway, if you see a Sunland Caravan on the road, give them a wave. They're a great mob.